bulbing those out, formalizing that street parking. And then those trees come out, these are utility poles, the trees come out into the parking lane so that you can grow a larger tree that's not right over the utilities. If any of you are familiar with downtown Northport, Alabama, this is what they've done. It's a similar concept there. Court Street, again, we heard a lot. I'd say we had 8 tables the other night, and 6 of the 8 probably said close Court Street, make it a pedestrian mall. And we actually, our studio space is up here in this building, well, this building here. So we saw Court Street all week long, and Court Street is used a lot. And it's not to say that it couldn't be worked around, but this is a costly expenditure to go in and make this a pedestrian street. So we thought, at least in the interim, look at ways to make it more comfortable for pedestrians, but still allow it to be open for automobile traffic. So it stays a one-way street. The on-street parking, parking on one side is formalized again with the street trees and bulbs that come out. And on the other side, the head diagonal is kept. One thing that changes is this wall here. There's not much door swing room. That would actually be, you get a little bit, 3.5 feet, I think is what Keith was able to get there for door swing for the parallel parking. And then that wall would be moved back and rail, and you have an ADA accessible ramp up at this intersection. Company Street from Hill to Orline is one way. It's got the head and diagonal parking, and I don't believe there's any on-street parking here, but it splits in the, there is, okay. There is parallel parking on this side. Essentially the same configuration as far as the traffic that it permits would be allowed in the future. The formalized head and diagonal parking with the planters and the trees, and then the formalized parallel parking and a wider sidewalk. Again, the idea of making this more ADA accessible, as opposed to having the stairs as they come down directed to the parking today, that would be an accessible sidewalk that you could then get up, ramp up onto the higher sidewalk. Starkville, Mississippi had a similar issue where they had stairs in their downtown on Main Street on University Drive that came right down into the parking. And in the past few years, they've actually reconstructed that to be more ADA compliant, similar to this concept. So streetscapes, I think we talked a good bit about streetscapes and balancing modes of transportation. The objective would be easing pedestrian and handicapped access, which we talked a little bit about with the previous slide. The street trees provide shade and shelter from the weather, providing an attractive appearance and reinforcing the historic character. And you know, one of the assets of Wetumpka is you do have a pretty good sidewalk system. So there's a continuous way to get around. It's just a matter of upgrading those sidewalks. So that's something we concentrated on in developing the concept plan. And again, making it comfortable for pedestrians by narrowing the perceived width of the street, adding the street trees and the median along Main. Pedestrian bulbs would help lessen the crosswalk distance, like Nikki talked about, and combining brick and concrete and integrating the planters. This is Northport, again, where you can see how they formalize that head and diagonal parking. It's actually created the planting area where they can get the street trees in. Furnishings, again, just reinforcing their historic character. The current trash can is not reminiscent of what might have been there within your downtown. And the recommendation would be to go with something that's more historic in character. It doesn't have to be wrought iron, but something that mimics something that you would have seen historically in Wetumpka. The existing acorn lamps that are out there on the Riverwalk are a fantastic example of maintaining the historic character and reinforcing that throughout downtown, and that should be utilized throughout the downtown. Key public spaces that we focused on, well, key public spaces that are within the downtown. Obviously, the Riverwalk, which we said multiple times, we walked it a good bit, but it's a real asset for the community. I was a Greenways coordinator for Nashville for 5 years, and we would love to have a greenway like this. This is a great urban Riverwalk, and you've done a fantastic job with it. Gold Star Park, which actually goes all the way down to the south, Courthouse Plaza and the lawn here, and then Court Street. Along the Riverwalk, we've identified some opportunities for trailheads, and it doesn't mean that they have to have restrooms and water fountains. It just may be that you want to signify that this is the entrance to your greenway system. And that could be a map and a shelter with some paved area. But we've identified 4, and that doesn't mean that you have to construct 4, but to get a couple of key entrances onto the Riverwalk would be ideal. And one, we heard a good bit at the meeting the other night about having an entrance into the greenway at the foot of the bridge. And there's an opportunity here by Thane. There's a stair that goes down, and there's actually the boardwalk, the raised boardwalk that comes under the bridge here. So that would be a great location to create a gateway into the boardwalk there. North. And then there are the restrooms here. We're actually showing the restrooms relocated a bit, but still in that location near the overlook. And then down here near the boat launch towards the southern part of the Riverwalk. Gold Star Park, they extend street access into the park is one recommendation. We have one concept which we'll show in a little bit more detail here. Improve the existing facilities, like I said, that we heard from a couple of tables the other night, the restrooms could be improved. This shows the restrooms essentially in the same location, but they would be improved and on access with this space here. Obviously, they couldn't just look like your normal everyday restroom. To be terminating that access to draw people down, so it would have to be architecturally enhanced to let folks know that they need to come down here and check it out. Add features to make it more user-friendly. There are a good bit of benches out there. The amphitheater, we heard from 6 or 7 of the tables the other night, but it's actually planned, per the 2012 plan, a little bit farther to the south behind City Hall, or is it behind this building? Actually behind this building. So, we heard several times that the downtown lacks a heart, it lacks a center. And while the park is wonderful, Gold Star is a great place, it's not utilized, it's not really visible by people in downtown. So we were looking for spaces that were underutilized that could potentially be more visible and more utilized by users of the downtown. And it could serve 2 purposes. It could be a great outdoor space, and it could be that visible heart within the downtown, but it could also draw attention to the Riverwalk down along the river. And this is what's illustrated here is the west side of the courthouse. You can see now it's a pretty sizable area, but it's not really programmed to do much of anything unless you're going to sit on that picnic table right there. So it's a great lawn space. It's on perfect access down the street to the river, so you can capture views of the river from this location. But what can be done to make it a little more inviting for folks to come out who might want to eat lunch or rest or call attention to the Riverwalk? And this is not anything that obviously has to be done. It's just one idea that we had was integrating some water into that space. So you see here a small fountain, and then whether it's a paving or paint or something that simulates the river that would then draw people from this water down to the Riverwalk. This is just one example of a similarly scaled fountain here that has seating out around it. It could be a seat wall. if you see, this could be a seat wall, you don't have